First thing to do is take screenshots because so often when we see something scary online, whether it's a threat or it's your own picture, the instinct is like to delete it, close your laptop and get it out of there because you're in fight or flight and you know, your cognitive functioning brain goes offline. And the best thing to do is to pause and to collect all of that evidence because that evidence, the threat, the picture is what you need in order to take action, in order to file the police report or hire a lawyer, take the case to court. You also never want to engage with a perpetrator, even if it is your husband or your boyfriend. Once there is a threat to disseminate your images, it's a crime. Uh, you know, to the extent that you can get help, call a friend, call a lawyer, you know, as soon as possible to get the situation under control. That often has better outcomes than continuing to engage with the perpetrator, which will ultimately wind up causing you to be more afraid and maybe do something that you don't want to do, like get back in the relationship or
Yeah.
send more explicit, intimate images, right? So you really want to like capture and preserve the evidence and then step away and get help to make the best strategic next step forward.
Well, we know that it takes on average 7 times, right, for abuse victims to leave that type of relationship. And one of the ways they get you back is threats like this, right? I'm wondering, Lindsay, would you say that police are more receptive to these complaints? I think the expression on your face says it all.
I think some are. I wish they were doing better. I wish there was more training. I wish there was more conversation in precincts. Unfortunately, I still have clients who tell me that they went to the precinct with their intimate images and the police officers told them how hot they looked in them. So I can't say, I don't tell any of my clients to go to the police without sitting down with them and talking them through what might happen there. Because unfortunately, well, yes, there are many wonderful officers and detectives. Sometimes, and unfortunately, more commonly than not, survivors walk into police precincts feeling one way and they leave feeling even worse. And that should never happen. So these these situations are crimes. You should report, but I recommend and encourage you to have an advocate if you can. There are nonprofit organizations that will help, and also there are attorneys like me who can help you navigate that law enforcement criminal justice process so that you don't have to do it alone. If you do have a bad experience, you've got somebody next to you to help you.
And I bet that, this is one of the worst parts of our jobs, right? Is for me, it's exposing women to the realities of family court, right? Which is so similar and intertwined with maybe going to law enforcement and not being treated seriously. Or I just had a client yesterday tell me police were called to their house for a fight and the police left and said, oh, it's just a domestic abuse and domestic incident and left. So we hear this all the time. And I think it's so devastating for me when I'm on Zoom, I'm looking into the eyes of my client and they are just dumbfounded and shocked that this is our system, right?
100%. And I encourage all of those people to call me because I can get on the phone with the police and I can lay it out for them. Especially in situations of cyber abuse, oftentimes the police officers are maybe not trained in what the evidence needs to look like, or maybe they're not trained in what can comprise enough evidence to meet the standard. So they're overwhelmed by the cyber aspect of a case and they just say, we can't investigate it. I had a case where the perpetrator had used a Proton email address. So it was like an anonymous email address that he used to send those intimate images to my client's father. He sent them right after so anyway, the police originally said, we can't take action because we can't prove that it's him. He used this Proton email address. So technically it could be someone else. Like, come on, it's obviously the abuser. And the way I was able to convince the police to take action and make the arrest was laying out the whole situation coupled with legal arguments. They had just broken up. He was messaging her weeks before the emails got sent, begging her to come back. He had the knowledge of who her father was in order to get his email address. He was the person depicted in the pictures, so it was clearly that he had access to the pictures. He stopped sending them after my client got a restraining order and he was served. All the circumstantial evidence was so clear that it was him, but the police needed somebody to lay all of that out. And then when it was done, they made the arrest. So it's really helpful to have an advocate.
Right. And don't you think, Lindsay, that, you know, in our misogynistic world, women are often discounted as hysterical, crazy, overly emotional, and having that third party validation from someone like you, even though you are a woman, you're an attorney, you're going to present it factually, not that she has not done a good job of that, but you could do the best presentation of your life at a police department and they could be skeptical. And I've been in that situation where, yeah, I've been facing someone at a police department who had that kind of like, you know.
It's scary, it's intimidating. You don't know what to say, you don't know what not to say, you don't know what the laws are. You are in this scary, dark, frightening place talking to somebody in a uniform. Of course, victims themselves aren't able to articulate in the best possible way what needs to be said in order for legal action to be taken. That makes sense. Every police op station should have an advocate hired to do that job. And it's again, it's never the victim's fault for not being able to say the things that need to be said in the right way, of course.
Well, thank you for all you do, because I think there are so many great empowering messages. And I hope all of you listening or watching know that there are steps you can take. There are people out there like Lindsay to help you. I want to move on, Lindsay, to the segment I have here on Girl Wake Up called Truth or Trap. And it's a time when I throw out a common statement that maybe people in our society have said. And I want you to react to it. And tell me if it's truth or trap. If a woman willingly sent an intimate photo or video to someone she trusted, she can't really complain if that person shares it later.
Ugh, classic trap, awful. I mean, this is the crux of everything, you know. Society, unfortunately, will often think like, well, she should have thought twice before sending the naked picture if she didn't want it sent around. And of course, we know that that sounds just like the phrases that used to be thrown around in courtrooms, like, well, how short was her skirt when she got raped? Right? It's blaming the
Yes.
victim. It's putting the burden on the victim. It's looking at the conduct or the decisions that the victim made instead of focusing on the crime itself, the conduct of the perpetrator, which is the only point that matters. The distribution of somebody else's intimate images under our laws is illegal. And so that statement, that premise, we have to get it out of our heads. We have to get it out of the manosphere. It is not legitimate. It just hurts survivors. It causes survivors to be less likely to come forward. And we really have to get that trap out of here.